Hi everyone, this is Miss Graham, and today we are going to be looking at Lesson 6.2 as well as Lesson 6.3 today, practicing a lot of that vocab that we learned yesterday. So go ahead and open to page 87. Our learning targets for today are we are going to relate domain and range of a function to its graph and look at the function rules, as well as identify and interpret key features of graphs. We're going to go ahead and skip number 1 for now. Go ahead and look at the example under the try these A, where we have the function f of x equals 8 plus 2x minus x squared graph below. We're going to see later on in the year what this graph kind of looks like. But for now, we're going to identify the domain and range of the function. Remember, domain is looking at our possible x values, and range is looking at our possible y values. I have the domain highlighted kind of in red and the range highlighted in yellow. If we look at the domain, we can see that there are arrows continuing on and on forever as we go on left to right. So we can see this function continues on from negative infinity to positive infinity. If we want to write that down using inequality symbols, we start from our leftmost point, negative infinity, which is less than x values, because that's our domain, which is less than positive infinity. So that's using the inequalities. So we could say that method, or we could use interval notation, where we specify negative infinity and a comma, and go into positive infinity, and they're going to have parentheses on the side. Again, this is not a point. This is interval notation saying all the numbers possible. Now, we also saw yesterday that we could use this funny-looking R to represent all real numbers. So any one of those methods will work to say our domain. Focusing on range, we want to figure out what's the lowest point to the highest point. So if we keep looking at this, the arrows keep going down, 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 so we know we're going into the negative infinities. Now, if we want to use inequality signs, we still use the less than, because you can't be equal to negative infinity or positive infinity. And then with our range, we look at y. So I have negative infinity is less than y, which is less than some cut-off point here, right? That's the highest it goes. So it can be less than or equal to 9, since it is a closed circle. Now, remember, we could also put this in interval notation. So that would be negative infinity all the way up to 9, and there's going to be a bracket on the end since it is a closed circle. Moving on to identifying the y-intercept, we are looking at the point where it crosses the y-axis. Now, looking for any relative or absolute maximums, we're seeing, is there any highest point? Really, there's only one highest point in our graph, so that's going to be the relative and the absolute maximum. So we can say that as the y value equals 9. Or if you wanted to say the coordinates, you could also say 1, 9, totally fine, but there's only one for each, the relative maximums and the absolute maximums. So I'm going to write only one for each. Let's go ahead and now look at question number 2. So now we have a different equation graphed. It's not curved, kind of like what we had before, but it is a straight line where we can see there are arrows on the end to represent that it keeps going, going, going. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go ahead and identify the domain and the range of this function. You can choose how you would like to write your answer. I will share the multiple ways when I do it. So go ahead and pause the video and do that right now. For the domain, it's all real numbers, since it keeps going on from negative infinity to positive infinity. So you could write it any one of those 3 ways. For the range, it's actually also the exact same thing. It keeps going on and on forever from the lowest to highest point. Really, the only difference is if you are using the inequality notation, domain is going to be working with x and range is y. Now let's go ahead and have you look at parts B, C, and D. So you're going to identify the y-intercept, any relative or absolute minimums, and any relative or absolute maximums. So pause the video right now to answer each of them. For the y-intercept, we're going to have y equal to -1, or I could put it as the point 0, -1. For the relative or absolute minimums, there are no lowest points since it keeps going on and on forever for the range. So there's none. Ironically, the same thing goes for any relative or absolute maximums. There's no highest points, so there are no relative no relative maximums or absolute maximums. Again, the reason for this is because there's arrows on the end, so it keeps going from negative infinity to positive infinity for both the domain and the range. Now, let's look at this last one together. So this last problem looks at determining whether this equation represents a function and how we determined it. So think back to when we learned about the vertical line test. Can I draw any type of vertical line, such as here, here, even here, on my function, and see if it will just touch once? If it touches just once, then it's a function. So doing that, I can see, yeah, it only crosses once. So we know that, yes, this is a function. So it does work as a function by the vertical line test. Awesome. Now we're going to actually take a big page skip. So we're going to go to page 91 and start looking at number 11, and we're going to compare two graphs below and see why one of these functions has an absolute minimum and max and why one of them doesn't. Let's first distinguish the difference between these two graphs. So go ahead and look at the two of them. What do you notice that's different? Well, we can see the graph on the left has endpoints versus the graph on the right has arrows. Interesting. So I will tell you this does affect the idea of having an absolute minimum and an absolute maximum. Because the graph on the right has the arrows keep going, that means we are continuing to go into negative infinity for the domain and also positive infinity. The same happens for the range. We go from negative infinity to positive infinity. So is there really a lowest point for the graph on the right? No, there isn't. So let's look at the graph on the left. There is a lowest point. The arrow does not keep going on and on and on. If we look at the other side, there's no arrow, so it has a highest point as well. So really, looking at the graph on the left, we have our absolute min as that point. And this one is going to have the absolute max as that point. So if we look at the graph on the right, we can see there is no absolute min or max. Wah wah. And we can say, since the arrows on the ends mean the function, oops, sorry, my pen's running out. The function keeps going on forever. So go ahead and write that on down. So we're going to take that idea and carry it over onto lesson 6.3. So we're going to go ahead and pull out page 92 and continue to practice this vocabulary. So our learning targets for the second half of the lesson is going to identify and interpret key features of graphs, just as we did before, and continue to determine a reasonable domain and range in real-world situations, so real-life problems. So let's take a look at this picture right here. Again, we have a linear function, right? We can see it has arrows on the ends. There's no endpoints. I want you to go ahead and write down the domain and range of this function. Pause the video and then press play to resume and tell me what you got. All right, just like one of the similar problems that we did on our previous lesson, I believe it was example 2, we have all real numbers for both the domain and range. If you want to put in an interval notation, then you know you're going from negative infinity to positive infinity with a comma in between in parentheses. And if you're using inequality symbols, the only difference is between the two is one has x and one has y in it. Again, there's no equal to because we cannot have a number that's infinity or a number that's negative infinity. Now, let's jump to the real-world situations. So we know when we're looking at these problems, not all values will make sense for our domain and range. So for instance, we know when we've looked at distance problems, we can't have negatives. We've talked about how that negative really means the direction that we're moving in. Also think about maybe if we're talking about the number of people. It can't be a decimal or a fraction. We have to have a whole number of people. So in such situations, we know the values that make sense for the domain and range are called reasonable domains and ranges. So that's what I was reading from above up here, a reasonable domain and range. Now we're going to look at the try these A, part A on page 93 and determine what's a reasonable domain and range. So part A says a banquet hall charges $15 per person plus a $100 setup fee. The cost for X people is given by the following function. F of X equals 100 plus 15X. So we have to figure out what is a reasonable domain and range. Well, for this one, we don't have a graph to figure this out. So we have to think about a real life situation to see what is possible for our domain and what is possible for our range. So let's think about this. Our domain, well, is really looking at our inputs. What am I inputting in? Well, that's going to be people. How many people could I have? Could I have 0? Could I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Totally. So I'm looking for any number that's 0 or above, that's a whole number, and that's a positive. So in words, I could say all whole positive numbers. For the range, we know we're now talking about, how much money is accrued, right? That's our total amount. That's F of X, that one-time fee, and then $15 per person. So we know that if we have 0 people, no matter what, we're going to make $100. So we know we're looking at a value that is equal to 100 or more, right? So we could write this as we're including 100 going all the way up to infinity. Or maybe I wanted to put it with some inequality symbols. I could say it's equal to 0. So 0, sorry, not 0, it's 100. So 100 is less than or equal to my range of y, which is less than positive infinity. Because we don't know how many people. Maybe it's going to be going on forever and ever and ever. Again, our whole positive numbers will affect the type of numbers we get in the range. Great. Let's head to our next problem, part B. So we have 8-ball billiards, charges $5 to rent the table plus $10 per hour of gameplay. And it's rounded to the nearest whole hour. So the cost of playing billiards for X hours is given by the following function. F of X equals 5 plus 10X. So it's asking for what is a reasonable domain and range. So looking at this, we want to look at our domain and think of, okay, what is going to be our input? Well, our input is X hours. So we have to think about what possible hours we're looking at. Just like in the previous problem, when we were looking at the possible people, we can have 0 and up, but they have to be whole positive numbers. So again, our domain here is all whole positive numbers. So now, looking at our range, we have to think about what is our initial amount that we make. That's the $5 right there. We can see that. Cool. So we're going to start with $5. And then basically every single time we're adding on $10 more every single time. So we know that could be 15, then 25, then 35. And we can keep going for multiples of 10 starting at 5. So this is another visual on how we can represent it as well. Kind of goes back to what we saw earlier when we have segmented points by themselves. Okay, we're on to the time where we're going to be working on our homework. You are going to be getting a worksheet called 6.1 Practice. So it's basically pulled from the textbook. It's pulled from page 86, and you're using this graph to answer each of the questions below. So you have questions 1 all the way through 11. So go ahead and complete this, and we will go over it in class. Happy mathing!